about time for us to have some in-depth sharing, hopefully. We got Ara here and Fiona. Why don't you just share with us a little bit what you did experience in the past month and a half, or even before that, once we started talking about the project. And I know Fiona joined in later, but anyway, why don't you just start first, so that we can get some idea of what we have been working on.
It's just for me to really have the interest about this topic from the start was all the thoughts and stories I had after my father's death. And I found out, this is such a very incredible thing that happens in life, but nobody really talks about it. Also in theater, it's like one of the best medium to talk about it, but of course there is like a small death elements in performance, but not the whole thing just dealing with about this topic. And so when I was given the opportunity that I could do whatever that interests me or I have in mind, this topic came up, and it was not a very easy journey, and it was very fascinating, and it allowed me to look more in depth about what this is, and through theater it made it more sense to me. Of course, death is not something that I can say everything in full because I didn't experience it, but last few months weeks we had really experienced what our being, what it means to live and what it means to be present, and not to have that meant death. So it was very interesting and very, how can I say, challenging. At the same time, I realized so many things about life, so many things about myself. Yeah, so I could share with so many people even before I took on this project about my father's death, is because I know that dying or death is not a bad thing. It's a sad thing, but it's not a bad thing. More bad or sadder thing would be that we live, but we let so many things in ourselves, so many things in our lives to die while we're living. I don't know whether that makes sense, but yeah.
Well, the thing is, you just mentioned theater seems to be the right place to explore such a subject. For a lot of us, people tend to think, we simply go to theaters to watch performances. How would you respond to that? Why would you like to explore such a subject before you even put that on? I'm not saying that you're going to put on a show, because that's the problem nowadays. We keep talking about productions, putting on shows, but we rarely re-examine, the particular alternatives. The really, how would I put it? I'm totally tongue-tied all of a sudden. To me, theater is almost like a laboratory, for us to re-examine, something in life that we normally try to avoid or try not to talk about in depth, right?
I think right now there's so many things that is performed and through theater, movie, and in so many media. We talk about so many possibilities, so many fantasies, and yet we artists, we try to create something more, like we look for something else. But I found out that I didn't have to look for some stories. I didn't have to go further from what me myself already have as a human, as a being. There's so much things that is stored within us that really fascinated me. Like, so before I reached someone else's story, or before I reached to discover more about death, I was really, when I really looked deep into myself, the being, and into my body, I was really surprised at how many stories, memories that it already holds. And just to really discover one by one, I think past 6 weeks was just the start. I think we as artists, we as a theater performer, theater makers, we have such a privilege because it's this place, that the stage is a place to really manifest of us, the being. So I think that's the whole beauty of theater that cannot be compared to movies. Because
why we can only do that in theater? What about outside theater, day in and day out? Why not? Don't you find it's a little bit absurd sometimes? That it's only in the rehearsal space, all of a sudden we tune in, we allow this body mind to focus, to work on something that we think we're too busy to address.
Yeah, it's a pity, but what I found myself after, or even during this preparation, during this lab, was I really began to examine how I breathe, how I step, what I eat, what I see. So I have a new perspective right now. I see people walking, really, and doing so many things. But for me, with the new lens I have, I don't see they're really living. They're not fully living. Yeah. So actually, just before this lab took place, I was just as the same. But now I'm one. I look into this world. I live daily a little bit different. I begin to be aware of more of what's going on, how I do what I do.
Okay.
So I hope that I can have more, how can I say, balanced life. Not like when I just come into a theater, like change, and when I go out, just live the way I live. That would be very silly.
Well, it sounds like something unusual has been happening the last few weeks. I'll hear you out later on. Let me get to Fiona first. Well, you're a dancer. You come from Guangzhou, is it?
Jiangxi.
Jiangxi.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about your experience the past few weeks. How different was it in comparing with the way you picked up dance on the way back, or even those experiences in APA?
Okay. I think during these 6 weeks, it's quite different for me. Before my dance training background, we always focused. Even we also talk about detail. Please make details let the audience to see. But that detail, comparing with the theater, compare with the theater we're all talking about being present, that is quite different. Because before the 6 weeks ago, I think my awareness is not really open. My sensation is not really sensitive. But after these 6 weeks, I felt my awareness a little bit wider, and my sensation is more sensitive than before. Also, it's like Ara said, it's not easy journey for these 6 weeks because it's another approach for me as a dancer. Because during these weeks, I didn't do anything about the movement. I did a lot of structural improvisation, but I really focus on the picture in my mind. I capture the picture and then be honest to respond to the pictures, and then my body just respond, and then that kind of thing is grounding. It's not like a fancy thing, but it really means something for me. And then our outside eye, Sang-hee, she also felt up in that moment. I was in there, yeah. So, but before when I did also I choreographed some piece for myself. But before I just really focus, even for the movement, about the shape. It's not really deep down to relate the things, the topic. Yes, explore. So that is quite different for me. And then I also, after 6 weeks, I also have a question for myself. For now, I don't know how to move. Yeah, I lose the impulse to move. Before I know in studying APA, we all explore. I investigate about Pina Bausch. I know her famous sentence is she doesn't care how the people move. She care about how they why they move, the reason. Before I need to think about, but not really can understand the sentence. But after these 6 weeks, I think now I might get more the understanding about the sentence. So now when I say I lose the impulse about moving. So I also talk to Joanna. Joanna say, yes, be brave and then open mind, and then you have to digest for these 6 weeks, and then you have to find a way to make to find a connection, find a back connection, even in the theater and also the dance. Because now I think the movement is useless now for me. I cannot find a connection, but I just move like before. I feel like why? Yeah.
I think it's just you simply have to cross over such obstacles. Because when you're talking about the impulse, I mean, we don't just rely on impulses, right? When you move, you don't move for the sake of movement. Especially how people are being trained nowadays focus so much on techniques and presentational stuff without really touching base with life. I mean, that's the issue. So what I think, Sang-hee, introduced to you both, maybe so-called talking about structural improvisation. Can you share with us a little bit about what you get out of this exercise and what really happened?
So structural improvisation is where we do improvisation according to the structures that Sunny brings. Structures are like words that allow us to see the image that comes through the word that she's saying, the setting that we are in, and it's not something that we have to force ourselves to see the things, but just to allow and be patient for that image to come and react to it. So, and not just to see the image, but to really see in details of what this image is or what I see. So it's very difficult to explain without a person really experiencing this structure, because it was quite new for me too.
Well, isn't it like scientists, when you do any kind of experimentation, you need to have a framework, right? Mm-hmm. You need to have some kind of objective, and then you have to adopt the third eye, right?
It was good. I like the word structured improvisation because it had some boundaries, it had some frame that I could play on. It was not complete freedom, it wasn't complete improvisation. And sometimes I think those boundaries, those frames, those words allowed me to be more free because I could experience more of what freedom meant within that boundary. If I didn't have that, I'll be just moving or I'll be just doing something without any reason or without any knowing what's improvisation, what's not. And it was really a good workshops or improvisations that allowed me to look beyond what's in this space and to be aware of all the senses that's inside me, that I was not really using it the way that I should have or I could.
Why didn't you?
Why didn't I?
What happened to all this training you had in the UK?
So after this 6 weeks, I refer back to some of the notes or some of the books that I have and I still want to do more, that some of the words and some of the vocabularies that was kept used during my studies in the UK, I really didn't understand because there was so much to cover within 1 year of. So I think a lot of things were rushed for me. These little, we haven't touched on a lot of things, but we touched on small but in depth. And it was a very good, intensive 6 weeks to allow ourselves to be patient and also to look into it with a long period of time. And nowadays, we are very sensitive of speed. A lot of things, we always talk about the speed. And if something takes so long, then we just completely, be impatient. We cannot wait. We just cannot wait nowadays. But to break that speed, break that sensitivity of I have to produce something fast or I have to do something fast. Just putting that aside and to come into the space and to really allow my body to really respond honestly. It was really, I think it was really beautiful. It was something that I meant to do that way. I'm not created, I'm not being that have to rush everything, have to walk to some places without really thinking, breathing every day, without not knowing why I'm breathing, where I'm breathing, how I'm breathing. But to really take a moment and to think about these little things was amazing. It was really beautiful.
So?
I think 6 weeks, tough 6 weeks. We have been through. During the structured improvisation, we did 6 And then each of the structured improvisation we did some couple times, right? But each of the times I felt is better and better compared with the previous one. In the improvisation, it's about we are in this space, but sometimes for myself, sometimes I lost, and then something said, okay, stay where you are, stay with the task, and then sense the floor, sense the space, and open my back and open the awareness, and then wait, the moment comes, and then this happens, something happens, and then I could carry on again. So when I did the dance improvisation, I didn't have that kind of experience. So that was fascinating to me about working with Sanghi and with her structural improvisation.
Well, the thing is, because I haven't been following the whole thing, but when I was here, what I realized, Sanghi was extremely patient. Giving you very detailed. I wouldn't say that they are instructions, but rather some kind of questions, trying to hit your mind, your sensitivity, hoping that you would be able to unfold alternatives, outside your habits. But looking back, if Sunny isn't around anymore, do you think you could do that on your own?
I thought about that recently, right? Because Sunny's from Korea, and for me, I think it's not the end. For me, this is the start, and I really want to take further about this project in some ways. And I suddenly thought about, should be gone. Or maybe we can still ask her to come, but how would I be still able to catch those details? Would Fiona and I, if we stay one room together, will we be able to catch those things if they're more sensitive? I think that's a matter of how we really sustain and really try to continue what we have observed, what we have learned. If we just shut down this 3 months, the end, okay, new project, maybe we'll forget. But if we keep on developing, keep on opening our senses, maybe.
And it seems that, when we keep talking about our senses, how are you going to structure, the way you open up your senses? That's one thing. And how are you going to pose the questions from within and to allow your body and mind to touch base with little details. Okay? It's almost like to build some kind of inner monologue from within. Right? But what happened before, when we keep saying improvise, it's great that we could be free to do this and that. I don't believe in that. I've been seeing a lot of improvisation work, but it's almost like as if it's everywhere, but it's getting nowhere. Okay? Because I don't see how the performers channeling, particular vision.
For me, one of the structural improvisation, within one structural improvisation, there's a scene or one structure that someone washes my feet. Then usually, before this lab, it'll be like, okay, someone's washing my feet. Okay, I'll be just thinking, I'll be sensing, but I'll be also focused or thinking about what's my next step or what's my next line. But this time, I had the opportunity to really sense. And I was just trying to my best to really fully focus and sense someone is washing my feet. But then after that, someone said, how did the hands look like? Hands were big. No. How did the hands look like? What was the temperature of the hand? What was the color? What was the texture? She asked 100 questions. I was like, whoa, I wasn't.
Because people tend to generalize.
Generalize.
Yeah. You can work through
generalization.
Exactly. And also the generalization is constructed upon stereotypes, right? And how could you get anything out of that? Because to you, being washed by a lady, an old lady, one of your neighbors, you got to be specific enough, right, to let the senses and emotions unveil through very specific channels. But why didn't we do that before? Isn't that what art and performance is all about?
I think one of the reasons is also because I'm lazy.
Okay, that's the key.
I don't really take, and I'm not patient enough to really see all those details. I think it was me.
lazy might be one reason, but the important reason I think because the body and the mind don't really connect to see, to sense the thing. If the body and the mind really connect to sense the things, the details, and then it becomes very, very specific, and then we can really tell is a man, is a lady, or how tall is he, and the hair is rough, or skin, something we can tell if we really sense.
But also it's because it's how I live every day. I'm not so concerned, or I'm not so aware of all these little details. And I realized that more details I could see, it becomes more real to me. And then I don't have to act. When it becomes real to me, it becomes real to the audience. But I take those little details for granted, and I pretend to make myself see, or pretend that I'm really doing, I'm feeling it, but I'm just acting for acting. I'm not really being.
Especially nowadays when people keep talking about productions and productivity. You only like to get 5 weeks, 6 weeks, you got to put on a show and things like that. And it makes me wondering, why theater at all? When you're simply trying to keep reproducing the same thing out of generalization, out of stereotypes, out of things that you don't even believe in, or you hardly put your mind and body into, right? To me, actor is almost like the person carrying actions, very specific actions. Right? He's an action researcher. Through the movements, you begin to understand, you begin to touch base with something very specific. But again, I think what Sun-Hee was introducing, very much foundations. And it's a very important foundations. But yet now we don't talk about these foundations like what we do talk about Kung Fu, still talking about foundations. But what was it like, when people when they were teaching you dance, what were the foundations, so to speak? Could you recall?
I think for my past dance training background, we just focus the technique thing, the dance technique, how your leg goes up, and then how many period you can do something, the techniques. But the techniques is not really important, I think, in the contemporary art, in my opinion. But because the classical dance maybe have another things where they have a high technical quality things. Yeah, but if we say we're talking about contemporary art, especially contemporary dance, maybe the technique, that kind of thing is not really important.
Well, they could be important in a sense, but not everything, right? Because sometimes, you do need to go through a series of trainings to allow your body-mind open, right? To see, so-called. What Sun-Hee was working on possibly is another way to see yourself at work.
I think for Sun-Hee's that kind of training is not really looking at the external. It's looking about the external. Internal things. So the internal can really change the external. But if you just have external, no internal, I think that cannot work.
Well, to me, it could work both ways. You know what I mean? If you keep standing up and sitting down over 1,000 times, you would feel something. Something would be happening inside, right? But of course, people would say, "Hey, that's it. Why should I be doing that?" I can't say there are only one way, to deal with, exploratory work. there are always so many possibilities. But I think the foundation that what you just experienced, could be re-evaluate in a very special manner. Because sometimes, like you mentioned, we keep rushing from one thing to another without truly stopping and ask ourselves, what did just happen? What have we experienced? It seems like we fail to articulate those details in the first place, as if they keep drifting by, flying by, without really having a good grip on what they are really about, So in that, perspectives, when you try to retrieve the reasons to move, or maybe the core, the energy core that reactivate you as a person, what kind of dialogue did you make with the dead? Well, the topic is talking about making special dialogue with the dead, right? To me, death is almost like, philosophically speaking, we constantly experiencing dying. Our body, time, right? The past sentence is already gone. Right? But somehow we rarely validate the existence of such. How would you reflect on those experiences? You have a particular story too about dying.
About dying. I remember during the process that she was asking us to write down the journey to death, and then this writing. So I wrote, death is cold, death is cannot experience something, and then to relate about my understanding about the death. And it's quite interesting. Even I say, I wrote, dying. Maybe you will experience about the physical pain and psychological pain. Yes, I wrote that, but through the just improvisation, now I could really experience the scale of the pain. We did the grace in the mouth, and then the grace will hurt you. So the one grace and then another grace, and then you explore the shape of grace, and then you will get hurt, and then it stay the same level about pain. It could be. So through that improvisation, I really explore the scale of the pain, and then to rethink. Before I just wrote about physical pain and then psychological pain, but how pain, the things I didn't really to think about. And then through the improvisation, now I explored another understanding about that.
At least you managed to measure.
I always talked about death or dying because of relating to my father, and also because my mom, she lost like 4 organs on her body because of the cancer she went through. It was, of course, to be as a daughter and to see someone dying, someone going through so much suffering, pain, it was not easy, but it was not me. And what I really experienced during past weeks was that suffering or that dying or that last moment of taking breath it will happen to me. So while I was writing my reflections and some of the writings that we did together, I wrote a lot of stories, a lot of fragments about my father, but when I really wrote something about what will happen to me, what might happen to me, wow, so many things were gonna happen. It's not just gonna be closing my eyes, last breath, dying. It was a lot of stages. That's what's gonna happen to me. Either I'm gonna be shot to death, or I'm gonna go through a very long period of pain. But it had so many stages, so many senses, so many organs, so many things in my body that needed to stop or shut down in order for me to die. And to realize how many things, how many stories, or how many organs, or how many senses that were inside my body, and how to really think, even just for a moment, that all those things will stop one by one, uncontrollably, was surprising. Wow, I had all this. Wow, these things will all stop. It's not just my heart will stop, it's because of the blood that travels all the way through me. It's because of my breath that I won't be able to take in more oxygen. That breath will stop my blood circulation, blood circulation will stop, my heartbeat will stop, so many things, there were things that went through my mind, that picture went through my mind. Wow.
So what you're saying is the ability to visualize details, because actually all those things are very much there, right? Now in the internet age, we got everything. Push a button, we got all the information. Right.
But to really sense that I will go through, it's different. Just to look, just to see the movies, how people, all the blood splash and everything. It's easy to see. As I said, it's easy for me to say so many things about my dad or my mom, but to really take a moment and think that will happen to me, my body, my heart. Wow, it felt like something. I was like,
wouldn't that be the foundation of good theater in a sense?
Yes.
Is to retrieve the presence of the body and
yes.
mind. Right? But by doing that, just like you've written a lot of stories about your father and your mom, right? How are you going to transfer those things into images, into the performing self?
That was very, when we were talking, what do we want to present? Do we want to present at this stage? Do we want to do some kind of performative? Out of 6 weeks, to really think about what and how, it took us 2 weeks. Yeah, almost 2 weeks to really, do we need to? Do we have to at this point? And for me, I had one time by thinking, because I was discovering so many things, I was doubting, I was hesitating whether I have to do a show. Then my focus will, because I was treasuring these journeys so much, I didn't want to stop myself from this and then stop working on the presentation. That would be a shame. So I was struggling. So Sunny would be like, so are you ready? What do you want to share? I was like, could we do a little bit more? Could we do a little bit more? And until that week of presentation, of sharing, that Monday, we finally kind of got through what we would like to share, what we would like to do. Because what we discovered, what we were doing was so valuable. I didn't want to switch my mind to, share.
Well, but the thing is, what I realized is because Sunhee did some very detailed writing, right, to evolve. And it's sort of, to me, I mean, if you didn't take it seriously, I mean, they could become the instructions, right? How did you take that on. I mean, that particular piece of it wasn't really scripts, but they are there. Very detailed structure.
It was detailed, but not details.
Yeah. Okay.
There were a lot of spaces for us to fill in details.
Okay.
It was more of like a bone that she provided that we had to. We were not forced to, but we had to see the flesh that comes one by one. So it was very comfortable for me to take on that structure because there was some kind of a bone for me to build some of the flesh around it. So it was very detailed bone. But the rest was up to us. How are we going to build that?
But could you imagine, you if you were to build, that kind of structure on your own in the first place?
Well, I think we just by ourselves to build up the bones. I don't know the bones will stay very strong or what. Just if we build up that bones, that's the basic thing structures. I don't think it's really maybe it's same as the before performative things. Yeah.
No, that's the critical. That could be very critical. I mean, if you're not aware of, how Sun Hee, helped build the particular structure. Because I think you as a performer, gotta be learning how to build on your own, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You should be your own master builder.
Yes.
How do you see that?
I think I cannot say okay. It's because I haven't tried to build a structure. But I could, in the beginning, and even on the night before, I questioned why these words? Doesn't Sunny know that what I'm really concerned? Doesn't she know what I really want to say? So even I asked you that, why? It makes sense to a point when I have to say my writing, because this is what I wrote, so it makes more sense to me. But the structures before, maybe we should put everything together what we did so far. But the more I was rehearsing, the more I was getting deep into it, I began to see the thread that I could connect to. And whether she sees my thread or that was her intention, but it was very wise. I could see very detailed thread that was coming into. And even just before she gave us this score, when we first dealt with the first structures, it seems like she's going the opposite from what I want to experience and what I want to show. But actually, she was showing me the other side of what I want to see. And when I began to see the other side, the side that I really wanted to say or see became more clear. So I wanted to show about the suffering, the pain, the fear, all these dark, and about all the things I can think about when I come to think about death. But rather, she took the other step about showing what life really means, what's all the dynamics and all the textures, what life there is. And if I lose this, then it becomes the death. But for me, without really experiencing this side, I think I could make something. I think I could have shown something. But whether I'm really showing the full element, I'm not sure about that.
Maybe that's the problem. Showing. You shouldn't be showing at all. right? You should be sharing, right? You should be taking us on into a very specific journey. Because the problem nowadays is people keep focusing so much on putting on a show, on presenting something as if like an illustrator, you see, without really scoring. I mean, the word that you just used was beautiful in a way. When we're talking about scoring, that means you have to be able to see like a glass with the dying flame being contained from within. You know, how are you going to contain the flame? How are you going to see the glow, the heat? You're talking about the inside.
And I think we have very heavy responsibility as theater maker, because what we make is what they see and what they carry on in their life. And because we don't take it with patience, we don't take time to really develop and see with ourselves, then share. That's why audience don't have patience to see like what they really need to see. It's because of us. We cannot blame them to be saying, oh, why they're giving us this review, why they're saying that, oh, they don't know why. We cannot say that. It's our responsibility. We were the first person to experience and share. But how can we blame them if we don't do it ourselves? So I was a little bit worried about, oh maybe, what if this is boring? But I shouldn't be worried about that. It becomes boring when it becomes boring to me. And how to really sense and value and see really fascinating things that can be happening in this blank space. It's my task, it's not theirs.
I think also during these weeks exploring here, after go through these things, I quite to think about that is different than before, because also Santi she always talk about actually the death is not really matters about the death people. It matters about someone behind them. Now, I think it's true, because the death people, they just died. They are not live anymore. So the rest of them will care about them. So the living people will to think about the death. I think this, I don't know if this saying makes sense to you, to all of you, because for me, before I don't really think about, death is for the people who leave behind. I just think, death people. Don't think about the living people. What they see the death, and then what they can learn something about the death people. I think before, when I first met you, you talked to me and say, actually the living people should learn from the death people. I remember that.
Well, I was saying, like, in a way, just like my story, I kept saying is, my mom died, but the thing is, I haven't seen her totally pass away, because she's still living in me. Just like when you read a book written by somebody 200 years ago, say, right? You're making very specific dialogue with the dead. The energy, the knowledge, and the phenomenal living still very much as if have some kind of resonance from within. You're constantly breathing in and out with those little still sort of living signs, energy that still very much remain. But we constantly would say, hey, somebody died physically, zip, gone, nothing. But if we really look around, look at nature, it's almost like the whole cycle of rebirth through energy, through alternatives existence maybe. But it's like we jump to conclusion right away. We say, once you die, you're nothing. I can't speak for the dead because I'm still living, right? Who knows? But the fact is, we are constantly dealing with dying matters or dead matters. It's up to you and me how to make dialogues with those phenomena, right? So, I mean, even though the 6 weeks pass away, but the experiences, if they were living in you, still, I mean, they could be revived. They could be, right, revitalized into new energies. So, I think the bottom line is, how would you be envisioning yourself the next step? It's the next you. You know, when you are not necessarily on stage. I mean, even day in and day out, when you are engaging in theater, in life, in relationship with people. I mean, they should be one thing, not separate things. But now it's almost like as if we could only talk about those things when we're in this perimeter. Right? Once we get out of this perimeter, we don't talk about it. And that's absurd.
I actually talk a lot with my friends.
But they relate though.
The problem is that I need to make them sit and listen to. I need time, but they don't have time.
Of course not.
They don't have time, and they're like, but whether they really understand what I experience.
Why should I be caring about your experience?
We actually bring everybody.
Honestly, right? They don't even have enough time to care for things of their own.
Then I really began to question, like, you know, we have so many things, like be kind to other people, be loving to other people. But that's really possible when we really can love ourselves first, I think. How can I love someone
if you don't even know how to love yourself?
It's like a very easy sentence. But really, like, appreciate little details that's inside of me. Then I can see the little details what I should appreciate from someone. It's not just external things. It's something very little details.
That's why I think, you know, the so-called generalization is not just talking about ideas. I mean, a single word like love. What does it mean? Yes. I don't know. You have to experience it, right? I mean, it's different in different contexts. But we tend to generalize. Once you love someone, you expect something to return. And what is it? It's not love. It's some kind of trade-off. Right?
It's our issue. And our society keeps on pushing on towards that, you know. Valentine's Day. Oh, it's a place.
Because we're talking about market, you know, there's a different word, right? So we should be able to pull ourselves back to the core and say, what does it mean to you by being here or being there? Right?
Well, it's also one of the very exciting moment for me in this space was to be really present at the same time, to really see the details of what comes to me. Not just that, but to really weigh those two spaces together. Then I was in another world. I could go on and talk about all the little experiences I did, but wow, I was totally in another world.
Well, I just hope, you know, I mean, we could have the breath, you know, to see, you know, wherever we are, the blank space everywhere, you know. It doesn't have to be here to begin with. But of course, we're fortunate, you know, to be able to get a place like this to work on something out of productivity. Okay, focus on research, focus on the betterment of self-being. You know, talking about performing arts is not talking about just being a performer.
I'm really looking forward and excited to. I haven't, of course, we just finished. So with the new experience, new lens that I haven't faced a lot of other things yet. I can see how I've changed, just see things in life differently, see myself differently. But I'm really looking forward to more experiences and more awareness I will have through this 6 weeks and last.
Well, good to know that. I'm just hoping that you could both move on,
Yes.
with whatever you would be doing, getting into. Because the bottom line is, it's so luxurious for us
Yes.
to be able to get in this kind of space and time.
Yes.
But again, it's all about self-discipline. If you really want to do it, you can have it,
Yes.
right, wherever you are. Well, thanks a lot. So, of course, we can keep going, keep talking endlessly. But I see this as not the end. It's almost like another big step ahead.
Yes.
And thanks to Sunhee for what she offered. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.